to Attention Management Program Videos, Week 2. During Week 1, we covered how to create an organizational system, including a calendar and to-do lists to help you structure your time. Remember the challenge that I gave to you at the end of that video was to keep that system going for 4 straight weeks, to give yourself time to fall off the wagon and, most importantly, to jump back on. So if you've already struggled to keep up daily with your calendar and to-do lists, don't be discouraged, you're in the right place. This week, in Week 2, we're going to dive into some advanced organization and planning skills to make your calendar and to-do lists work even better for you. So there's 2 CBT skills this week. This is the first video, which will cover managing overwhelming or really big tasks and prioritizing tasks. The second skill, depending on what timing you watch this video, will either be a handout or a video, and it will cover just some suggestions for how to optimize your environment to reduce potential distraction. I'll explain what I mean all about that in that video, so let's get started with managing big tasks. So take just a moment to think of a long-term task that you've had in the recent past. Could even be something you're struggling to get finished right now. Got one? Okay, great. If a lot of different tasks come to mind, just see if you can pick one and workshop it with me over the course of this video. So to illustrate these skills, I'll use an example of a recent big task of mine. And my example is moving across the country. If you've moved before, you know just how many details there are to think of and how daunting of a task that can be. I remember, even though I was really excited about my move, I felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume of work there was to actually make it happen. Instead of jumping into the task with excitement, I totally avoided it because even thinking about coordinating all those details made me tired. And that makes psychological sense. When we look at a large task that we can't possibly finish in a day or even a week, we often feel unmotivated and tired. To find motivation, we need more than just wanting to get something done or knowing we should. We also need to feel as though progress is possible. So because of that, it's really critical to break these tasks down into smaller pieces. As the saying goes, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So let's break down our tasks together. What I'll ask you to do is take out a piece of paper and draw this on it, just these 2 lines creating 4 quadrants. To get started, write in the bottom right-hand quadrant what your task will look like when it's completely finished. So in my example, I'm 3 months out from moving day. On moving day, I need to have my lease signed, local utilities connected, stuff shipped on its way there or there already, and my car packed up and ready to go. And then what we'll do next is we're going to work backwards. So now in the bottom left quadrant, write out what it will look like when you're halfway to the finish line. Ask yourself, what do I need to have finished specifically by the time I'm halfway to that deadline in order to feel like it's realistic to make it the rest of the way? In my example, halfway was about 6 weeks. So I would feel like I was halfway there if I completed all of these things. An apartment complex chosen, identified the utilities, ready to call to get them connected, moving company reserved. You know you need to do that early to get the best price and the right dates, and also an appointment scheduled to get my car checked out. So now we'll work backwards yet again. So in the top right quadrant, write out what do you need to have finished by the time you are halfway to that halfway point that you just defined a moment ago. In my example, that's 3 weeks out. What do I need to have done by the 3-week mark that would make me feel like I was truly halfway to 6 weeks? For me, that was these things: having researched a few apartment complexes, narrowed the moving company down to 2 options, and decide what's coming with me in the car and what's going on the truck. And then, as you might have guessed, we'll work backwards one more time. This question is, what do I need to have done by the end of this week to feel like I'm on track to have all those things done in 3 weeks? In my example, this meant start searching for moving companies, maybe crowdsource on social media to get advice, email my new employer for recommendations, and buy moving boxes. So the basic idea here is that you start at the end and then you work backwards. And you can break this down into as many quadrants as you need to. The goal is to break the large project into more doable tasks. So working backwards is the first way to think about breaking down a big project. But if it doesn't work perfectly for the task you had in mind, here's another way, using the metaphor of a thermometer or a percentage. So have you ever seen those thermometers like this one, where an organization is trying to meet some goal, like donations or flu shots at Campus Health? The 100% goal is written at the top, and then they color in the thermometer as they get closer to that goal. So we can think of our own goals and big tasks in this way as well. So to do so, start with these 3 questions. What does 100% complete look like? Where am I right now? And you may notice it's not 0. It might be a lower number than you wish it was, but it may not be 0. And then, how could I move 5% closer toward my end goal? So to illustrate this, I'll use another example from my moving illustration. And that example is packing up the house. Okay, so 100% done would look like the whole house is packed. Totally overwhelming. So I could start by breaking that down into individual rooms. So if my house has these rooms, each one of them would represent 20% done. I got 5 different rooms. Each one is 20% of the way there. You could think of it as one room at a time. But even that might still feel too big to really be motivating. And remember, the key to motivation is desire to do something plus the ability to see how progress is going to be made, okay? So start even smaller. Let's say I start with one of these rooms, the bedroom, let's say. So I can ask myself, what would put me 5% closer to reaching my goal of packing up the whole bedroom? Here's a list of some tasks I came up with. It felt like 5%ers to me. Sort through my clothes, decide what to donate, decide whether to sell my furniture or move it with me, buy moving boxes, and pack up one box. So all of those felt to me like they would put me just 5% closer to that goal. So let's talk about how this translates into your to-do lists. Look back at your to-do lists and ask yourself, how big are the tasks on there? Do you have any tasks on your to-do list that are 20%ers? If so, I really encourage you to use this strategy to break it down into something bite-sized. So when you're making your to-do lists, think in 5%. This might result on more tasks total ending up on your to-do list, but you may find, if you really try it out, that you feel more accomplished. So now that we've covered how to break tasks down and you have a ton of small tasks, how do you decide what to do in any given day? The answer to that is prioritizing. This is my favorite way to prioritize, using a square method like this. So create a table with level of importance here on the top and urgency, meaning deadline, here on the side. So then what we'll do is we'll assign each task to a quadrant, remembering that the designation is totally up to you. So here's an example. Let's say I start with these 4 tasks. Scheduling a vet appointment, paying rent, a load of laundry, and seeing Wonder Woman. So in my mind, I organize these in the following way. Pay rent got itself immediately promoted to urgent. I value where I live and I value punctuality and also important, right? So those things that I value are why it's under the important column, and urgent is I value not paying a late fee. So there's a clear deadline there. Schedule the vet appointment. In this example, I'm considering a routine checkup type appointment, something that's important. I value my dog's health, but not urgent. It's not an emergency. If it waited until later in the week, that would be okay. See Wonder Woman. I'm remembering when that was in theaters, it felt really urgent to me because I desperately wanted to see it while it was still playing at the movie theater. But compared to other tasks on my list, it wasn't quite as important. And then finally, a load of laundry. This task fell into the not really urgent, not important category, but this is an example of something that could easily move around. So if I'm considering midweek, maybe my favorite clothes are dirty, but I still have plenty to wear, this can stay in not urgent or not important. But it may become more urgent and considerably more important if I'm, say, out of underwear 2 days from now. So assigning the level of importance and urgency to tasks can really help you decide what needs to go where in your daily to-do lists. Even though you'd really like to be able to do all of your tasks in one day, it may not be realistic, especially if that's a busy or stressful day. So prioritizing in this way helps you figure out what truly needs your time and attention and what can wait. So to review, motivation is more than just wanting to do something or knowing you have to do something. Motivation is achieved by having a reason plus a clear plan of how you'll get that thing done. You can make those plans more clear by breaking down tasks, and we covered 2 ways to do that today. And once you break down tasks into smaller pieces, those 5%ers, you can prioritize the pieces by assessing their urgency or deadline and assessing their importance. So here is your challenge for this week. Maximize your to-do lists and your calendar by breaking down those tasks into even smaller pieces and see what kind of an impact that has on your motivation or even your productivity throughout the week. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week.